I can show you a new world. It's called the Guiding Lands. Tell me, Barrioth, now did you know there's a party happening there?
You've opened my eyes. Take me to see this wonder. Over, sideways, and under. The older map's already there.
It's up to Capcom! Hello, my fellow hunters, and now that the Rajang invasion has somewhat settled, mainly because he's, well, got round breaking every single hunter and other monster in two, let's look to the future once more, to December, where we're getting another new monster for sure, and asking ourselves, well, will it come with Hoarfrost injected into the Guiding Lands? That is the big question. Now, initially, it's easy to be like, well, we got the frickin' lava zone, yes! So of course we're gonna get the frosty zone at some point. Yes! But will we actually get a Hoarfrost zone? How likely is that? Because on the face of it, it is, well, something that should be like, yeah, of course, obviously we will. It puts in the final set of monsters. We get the Barrioth and the Beatodus and the Vipertobi Kadachi, a selection of missing beauties that everyone, I'm sure, would adore to fight in the lands and see clash with monsters they normally wouldn't. But that's all that really points to, yes, they're adding it, obviously on top of, well, they did Volcano, so why not Frost? But when you actually look at it, a part of me is like, well, perhaps not. Now, don't get me wrong, I would put my money on it happening, chiefly through the power of I hope it does, but I have explored the Guiding Lands really quite in detail, and there's nowhere that I can see that makes that much sense to suddenly be like, oh, hark, a snowy area we've discovered. How crazy is that? What a coincidence. It would presumably have to be high up. You'd have to go mountainous to get the snow. You're not going to be going deeper down, and there really isn't any kind of access points that would lead to that. There's an area on the map where there actually is, well, mountains painted on, and we could have some really high overlooking frosty peaks, which definitely would work, but how we get up to there, I don't know. But then again, this feels like a weak bit of, air quotes, evidence, because no one would have gone up to the stone wall that led to the lava zone and gone, yeah, if we just punch that real solidly, we'll probably find a whole new area.
You're welcome.
So, I can't really use that. But the main thing for me is the UI. See, in order to include lava, they didn't really need to change anything. They just had to bunch up the space a little bit and insert it. Whereas when it comes to the Hoarfrost zone, they will have to either make everything tiny or extend the height of it in order to add it in, which, don't get me wrong, is perfectly doable. But when you compare how everything was built before Volcano, it clearly was there with Volcano in mind to be fit snugly into it, whereas it no longer looks like that. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be. And then the thing is, tangentially, the Guiding Lands is part of the main New World landmass, which is the 5 maps that are there. The hinterlands, where the Hoarfrost Reach is a whole other island, it's a whole other thing, it's across the sea. It doesn't make sense that it would be represented. But then again, if you just say, yeah, the mountains at the back of the Guiding Lands go high enough that they get snowy, it's not Hoarfrost Reachy, there just happens to be snow up there, and therefore the snowy monsters, so you could hand wave it that way. I just have this kind of sinking feeling that because Hoarfrost is new and fancy, they, want that to be its own separate thing, and not just immediately shoehorn it into the lands. I hope this weird feeling I have is wrong, because I really do want it to be there, and it does make sense for it to be, as I said. Put those monsters that we're missing in, and expand all of the augments and all of that loveliness once more. It gives us that treadmill of progression going forward. I would say I'm 50-50 on this, but ultimately I can't ignore the fact that you can summon wolves with Raideride in the Guiding Lands, which to me kind of makes everything I've just talked about go out the window because of the Gastrodon, and obviously we got volcanoes, so perhaps this is all just me, well, wasting my time talking, and of course we're going to get it, and I'm sure they'll figure out a nice way for us to get there, like they did with RageGaming. And one little bit of perhaps surprisingly good evidence to us getting a Hoarfrost zone is that there is 7 moly spaces in the moly pipe once you start collecting that rare endemic life. 1 generic moly that's found in every zone, and then 6 unique ones. 5 already obtainable, and 1 final one to come when the Hoarfrost arrives. I think that's no coincidence. And I'll have a guide on how to get them all, because they're incredible, this weekend. So let's pretend that we are going to get a Hoarfrost zone. And by the way, if they do add a Hoarfrost zone, and now I'm like 70-30 they will, we will get, as I said, Barrioth, Viper, and all of that good stuff, and I definitely think they'll add Beotodus. They added Levisioth. It's not hard to put a little deep snow area in, which means the only large monster in all of Monster Hunter World that won't be in the Guiding Lands, permanently excluded, is Geratodus. Which I find absolutely hilarious, because I think he is, you know, objectively the worst monster in the game. He's just been kicked out of the club once that update comes in, the poor fish. So, let's assume this is happening in December when we know we're getting a new monster. What are we hoping for? What are we wanting to see? What would carry that title update and also make sense as the pioneer of this new winter wonderland? Because to be an update monster, you have to fit into a few categories. Firstly, if it's going to be a Guiding Lancer, which it would have to be RageGaming and introduce the new zone, it has to work and fit in the Guiding Lands, which means we can't just be like, I don't know, put in new Canlos, that'll totally function, he can squeeze on through, scraping his body against the narrow passageways. He needs his own map, he can't just appear, it has to work in normal-sized zones. Obviously, it has to be something that can go in frosty zones. Now, it doesn't need to be an ice monster per se, RageGaming isn't a fire monster, but it has to be something that can fit and work and be okay in snow. Lastly, it has to be something that is powerful or exciting or famous enough in Monster Hunter history that by itself as a single monster injection, it's like, yes! Because if they went, surprise, we're giving you Blangonga! We put the RageGaming skeleton, it was to prepare you for Blangonga! I mean, it's nice to have another monkey, another fang beast in the game, don't get me wrong, it would be, but I don't think we're all going to be there like, oh my god, we need to get a Blangonga, we need to experience this fight, his equipment will change the meta! He's just a mid-tier, fine, I guess, monster. Whereas obviously something like RageGaming, Lunastra, Deviljho, Kulftaroth, they've all had huge impact on the game, and rightly so as post-launch content. So even though I would adore something like Zamtrios, he doesn't have that oomph to really be the update. Now, something like Orochi Kirin might, but then again, that's just a subspecies. Something like Rusted Kashala. Come on! Do something! Again, you could give it the Lunastra makeover, but it's still just, oh, the new whole update monster is a Kushala variant, okay. Now, again, Kushala Rusted would be the perfect level 6 bonus monster, but as we've seen with the Rajang one, we're probably not going to get a second secret one. So, when you take all these factors into account, there is very few monsters that actually fit the bill, which leads me to believe one of a few things. We're either going to get like an injection pack of subspecies and variants, like here, have Stygian Zinogre, which would be incredible, Jade, Baroth, and Blangonga, and Rusted Kushala. Nothing new, but, you know, a little bit of an alteration on a load of existing base monsters. That could kind of work, but we know that we're getting a monster in December. So really, the biggest candidate for me, if it's not going to be something wholly new, a new invention like Hoarfrost, which I kind of would prefer the most, is Alatreon. Get ourselves a black dragon finally, and how amazing would it be if we got Alatreon this soon, only to then get Fatalis as the final update, reborn in World's Glory, and then we could have an Alatreon Fatalis turf war.
Stop! My penis can only get so erect.
And yeah, that is definitely just, it would be cool, so please let it happen. I honestly kind of have to assume that we're either getting a new monster, Alatreon, or something anticlimactic. That's kind of where my thoughts lie at the moment. And of course, for both Orochi and Alatreon, we have the old leak list, which I still refuse to let go of because everything else was so accurate on it. But of course, we'll have to see how it all ends up. All of this could be completely wrong. We don't get a new zone in the Guarding Lands. We don't get a new monster based on that. We get something like Hoarfrost, one huge epic encounter with a whole new map and whole new systems and equipment, and, you know, all of this happens later or never. That is, of course, the price you pay when you get excited and posit and theory about what may come. But what does make sense is that we should be getting a Guiding Lands Frosty area, chiefly because of Wulgs, even though a lot of other elements would speak to the contrary, and that we need a monster that makes sense to come with that is exciting enough to carry an update, of which there are very, very few candidates. If I had to commit to something not a black dragon, a bit more grounded, perhaps I could see Gammoth. Now, Gammoth is obviously huge, but at the same time, I think you could scale it and make it work, especially in Hoarfrost Reach. There are a few very large open zones. The paths between zones are fairly wide walkways, and I think Gammoth getting the Lunastra treatment in World can fix a lot of the, it's kind of a boring fight, yeah, it's a cool large mammoth, but, you know, it just kind of stomps around a little bit, like really turning up her suction and snow blizzard attacks and really get the earth-shattering strength of her across in World. She could actually be quite the encounter, and I think perhaps something actually worthwhile to take on the mantle as a title update monster. Maybe even sneak in Elderfrost and suddenly open up the world that deviants might well come to World. And it is a fanged beast, and we now know we can have them because of Rajang adding the category. So that would be kind of a curveball that I would suggest. Either way, I realise a lot of this was just kind of rambly thoughts, so you'll have to let me know what you think. Essentially, do you think we are getting a Hoarfrost zone? And if so, is it going to be an old monster? Which one? Or is it going to be something completely new? Which would you even prefer? Food for thought, hopefully, and hopefully you've had fun. Like if you did, subscribe for more. I'll see you soon. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video flow.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.